shaking, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. Have you ever had an idea and you're like, man, this thing could be awesome, and you just don't know what to do with it? You don't know how to start it. I have the guy that knows how to take that idea and really bring it to fruition. This is going to be an awesome conversation. Chris Joyce is the founder and CEO of Gusher. He's the founder of 24 companies in high-tech, consumer goods, health, and manufacturing. Chris believes that great ideas can come from anyone, anywhere, and believes the market and not venture capitalists should be the judge of whether or not these ideas see the light of day. That is why he created Gusher, a simple, quick, and easy way to create and build a startup without the need for investors, without the need for capital. How? Gusher helps entrepreneurs create and launch startups using performance equity. They have founders and companies from technology, media, and health to design, finance, and gaming. Brother, that is freaking awesome. I have not heard of this. I can't wait to dig into this with you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Well, like I said, I had a power outage earlier, but other than that, brother, I'm blessed. And, we were talking off air, and one of the things that I've always seen and why I love your story, people have great ideas, but so many of those ideas are buried 6 feet underground or never saw the light of day. How did you choose, brother, to say enough of that, enough of you have to have all this money? You created something that's really unique, man. I don't think I've ever heard of this model. So how did you come up with it?
Well, it was really just an evolution of doing businesses from the time I was a young kid through adulthood. When I started hitting my late teens, early 20s, we never needed money to start a business. I know it's going to sound kind of crazy, but we never did. We would go ahead and out there if we needed real estate, we'd do a deal with the landlord, with the property owner, whatever it may be, and work something out. If we needed marketing and distribution, well, we'd actually go ahead and figure out the relationships and do revenue shares and stuff like that. If we needed manufacturing, we'd bring the manufacturing as part of the company. We called it finagling at the time. You would finagle, do whatever the hell it took to get that company going. And then once the company had revenue, it became a much different way of doing it. So from the beginning, we never needed capital, or I never needed capital, but you would need capital at a certain point when you were bigger. When getting to $10 million in sales, you don't need a dime. You don't need a penny. You don't need anything. Getting above that, you actually may to be able to do a land grab or take over a vertical or something like that. But to start out, money is actually a liability typically in the beginning.
Yeah, one of the things I'm hearing is you finagling, that takes a couple things. It takes balls, it
Yep.
takes confidence, and it takes some creativity, because you're really saying, look, maybe this has never been done, but here's what I can do. And I'm curious because performance equity, I love that terminology. I want to hear what that means to you, as so somebody listening says, I have a great freaking idea, but I don't have the backing. What is performance equity?
So think of it this way. Gusher is a platform to launch companies without the need for capital, without the need for investors. What happens is people apply to join companies in exchange for performance-based equity. What that means is they don't get a damn thing unless the company is able to achieve its goals, able to go ahead and launch successfully. And that includes us. We're performance-based equity also. So what happens is it keeps everybody rowing in the same direction. So what I usually say to founders is, imagine that you had $1 million or 2 million in the bank account right this second. What would you build? How would you build out your company, your team, etc.? And then do that, because that's what we do all day long, every day. Everything from B2B, B2C, B2B2C, consumer goods, manufacturing, SaaS, fintech, AR, VR, AI, gaming, companies all across the globe. We've got more than 350 of them in every different vertical. Anybody can do this. It's not easy work. It's a little bit of hard work, but it's not difficult. It's something you just dig in and make it happen, and we help you make it happen.
Yeah, often you hear people say, what's your niche? Right. And clearly, Chris, you are looking at this business as, I don't care whether it's, again, in design or consumer goods or health, it's a business, as the way it sounds like you're approaching it. It's like, I'm not an expert in manufacturing, but you are, and I am an expert at launching the business. Is that the most simplified version I can kind of say? Like, when you look at a business, you know how to really get it going off the ground, function at a high level, and you let people in their expertise really do that side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. We call it something that's called the VIM, the VIM, the vested interest market. That's the people that have the most to gain from the success or failure of your company. So let me explain. So let's say you have an idea for a dog food company, which is actually on our platform and actually really, really successful. Well, if you're going to go ahead and build a dog food company, what you've got to make sure is that your team is VIM, that they have to be dog owners, they have to be dog zealots, they have to get dogs. When it's like that and you build a team of this vested interest market, what happens is that they are zealots. It's not transactional. It becomes where they want to have an impact. And so it ends up making the product better, the company better, and you leapfrog generational development. So it's not like you're working on this thing as a solopreneur trying to figure it out. When you bring in the expertise of others that are much better at doing what they do than you are, it just leapfrogs the company and actually helps it grow a lot faster and a lot better and has higher success rates, much higher.
So that sounds like part of your vetting process is like, hey man, tell me more about why you're passionate about this. Why is this something that's important to you? And I think it is amazing when you're really passionate about something, there's no amount of things, obstacles that are going to get in your way versus, oh, I'm going to make a lot of money over here. I think this is where entrepreneurs can screw this whole thing up. If you're passionate about something, nothing can stop you. Like, you're going to make it happen versus, okay, I'm going to go make a bunch of money over here. Well, guess what? I didn't. Now I lost a bunch of money. This sucks. I'm out. Is that the biggest key you see in people really making it or not? Because businesses largely don't succeed, especially when they're
Yeah.
starting out.
Well, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's listening to the little voice inside your head that says you can do something and kind of focusing on that, because you're going to have a lot of external voices saying it can't be done, it shouldn't be done, it wouldn't be done, couldn't be done. But more importantly, it's not just having that passion, because passion comes and goes. It's having that determination, that discipline to really focus on those times when it is bad, or when it is boring, or when it's been a long time without a hit or a home run. Digging in for the long term is really what adds up to be success from what we've seen. That ability to delay gratification is golden. It's everything. So that never giving up, we always hear never give up, never give up. It's really true, but it's the ability to delay gratification. I don't know if you can see it, but I get goosebumps whenever I talk about delayed gratification, because that really is the key to everything. Being
Yeah,
able to
I
have
want to
that
dive
ability.
more into that, brother, because me too. This, especially in this world today of instant gratification. Even we talked about gaming and gamification. The whole idea is like, I want the reward now. And
Yep.
what you're saying is, look, if we want to build something vast, if we want to create true, and you said the word impact, one of my favorite words,
Yep.
lasting impact, that doesn't mean it's going to be freaking awesome right away. There's going to be a grind. There's going to be challenges and adversities, and you're probably going to fall down a few times. Talk to me about delayed gratification and
Sure.
how can people build more resilience for this idea? Because I've seen it work, but I've also seen people 3 feet from gold. There's a reason there's a book named that, because they don't want to see it through.
Well, I think building resilience really comes from, and I have this summed up in a different way than really anything I've seen out there. And I say it as the following: when you make a decision, okay, you make that decision once. You don't make it every day. You don't make it every hour. You literally have made that decision and you don't revisit it. So, literally, if I make the decision to do something, I see it through to the end. So if I'm going ahead and, let's say, lifting weights and I have a goal of hitting a 300-pound bench press, I get up every morning at 5 a.m. It doesn't matter if it's freezing outside of my garage. It doesn't matter if I'm aching a little bit that day or I'm a little bit under the weather. It doesn't matter whether I didn't get a full night's of sleep. I do that damn workout and I hit that goal. Well, with business, it's the exact same thing, except it typically has a much longer time frame. And so that time frame, really, a person has to understand that going through shit, and this is the curse alert. I'm going to say shit about 100 times right here. So going through shit is what's required to go ahead and create something great. Something great isn't just crafted in 12 seconds like a TikTok video. All right. It's literally gone ahead and crafted over time. It's iterated over time. And so sometimes you have to be in a very bad state, a state where it's crap. The bad things lead to the good things. But at that bad things, that path is requisite as an entrepreneur. It's the entrepreneur's education. You've got to go through that hell in the beginning stages, because that qualifies you. That almost in a way tempers you to become what you need to evolve into to make a successful business.
Well, before we started, I said, look, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. You said, oh, I'm great at the ugly, man. I got that down. And this is the piece that I think, entrepreneur has become the sexy word where people are like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. That means freedom, and it means I make all the money I want, which can be true, but it's not the way it looks in the beginning. Anybody that started a business, I think that's when you say I'm great at ugly, it's because you've started. I mean, you have 24 going now, but you said since a young kid, I'm guessing, I don't know how many companies you've started, but you've seen the ugly. Talk to me about that idea of this entrepreneur sounds sexy, but the truth is, man, there's some grind, there's some grit, there's some ugliness, especially in the beginning.
Well, I saw a good analogy of it, and it was an Olympic coach, I think, that said this, and I can't remember the context, but it stuck with me for a long time now. It said that literally explaining the practice process, and it says literally 30% of your practices are going to be absolute crap. They're going to be horrific. It's going to be like walking through mud. It's going to be hell. 30% of them are going to be average, where you kind of feel not really great about it, but not, too bad, whatever it may be. And then 30% are going to be really great practices. Well, the entrepreneur curve is a little bit more extreme. So, you're lucky if you get 30% are only bad days. All right. You're extremely lucky if 30% are average, but 30% are never going to be these great freaking days. You may have 1 in 100, 1 in 10 where, you have a great win, maybe a little bit higher or lower, depending. But the extremes are there when it comes to having to have taking crap for a long period of time. So in a way, it's great to be a masochist. The fairy tale of Silicon Valley and creating a company where you've got this idea and you're in a garage and you're handed a check after you make a pitch, and the year later you're worth $1 billion. Well, it may have happened for a couple people, true, but the vast majority of companies are not that way. You start out with an idea. That idea is ugly as hell. You're spending time on it. You're going through this furnace, is what we call it. And then hopefully you're able to come out that furnace and not be ash, but you evolved into a different, stronger company and stronger person for doing it. And that's what leads you to success, going through the furnace, really.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to talk about this because, again, we all have seen, Amazon. Let's just take that for example.
Sure.
20 years ago, it was selling books, or approximately 20 years. It wasn't sexy at the time. It was
Right.
not the juggernaut that Amazon is today. But people don't talk about that. They don't talk about the fact that he was operating on a shoestring budget, the fact that he's brilliant, clearly, and logistically had this vision. But a lot of people are saying, "Yeah, this guy's crazy," just like
Yeah.
Musk, like starting with electric cars. Like, really? Everybody said he's an absolute freaking moron to take on the giant, which is the automobile industry. So to think that, oh, this was easy, or somehow, it's this, he had this grandiose vision. No, man, he had a vision, but he went through some shit. And that's the furnace I think you're talking about.
Yeah, well, he went through shit for a long time. I mean, you can look into something like Elon. Elon was sleeping on friends' couches, even as he supposedly had this huge net worth, because he was trying and leveraged to the hilt to make those companies happen. And those companies that happened, it took a very long time for them to catch. It didn't happen in a year or 2 years or 3 years. I mean, it had more 5, 10, even longer before the real value was created. Even Bezos at the beginning stages, I mean, it was not pretty. He took, I think, 6 months to bring on his first developer. I mean, it took that long just to bring on the first person to be able to get the company going. So, everybody sees that one flash in the pan stuff, the end game of what they've accomplished, but there is a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of unglorified, really dirty, yucky stuff that nobody ever sees, that's the reality. And so you should know that going in, because that is the way it's going to be typically. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, and the word vision is, I think, synonymous, at least in my opinion, with leadership. And I'm curious to get your take on a role as a leader to really take this idea, this vision, and now starting to bring it to reality. So we talked about
Yeah,
the grit, talked about, look, get ready to get your ass kicked. I know you're in outside of Philly, so the whole Rocky story, right, man?
sure.
You're getting knocked down, get back up, knocked down, get back up. But as a leader, what is your role in this? I'm not you specifically, but
Sure.
someone that wants to create this idea, they want to bring this to fruition. What do you see people doing well in leadership, and where are you seeing people fall flat?
The one thing in the very beginning stages when you're starting out alone and it's just ideation is learning very quickly how to tell your authentic story as to why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to do it. Because that what we call the initial pitch, and it's not like the pitch that Silicon Valley people have you think. I'm talking about the authentic reason of why you're starting this business. What is the reason? So when you're able to master that in a simplistic way, that then enables a founder to really start building a team, because you can recruit off that. If you can't recruit off that pitch, the company shouldn't be done at all. Zero, nada. Because if you can't get somebody involved with your company, is our thesis for performance-based equity, the company should not be done. And so that's a very big important part of it. When it comes to going ahead and digging in, or what the most important technical thing is as a founder, I think it comes down to one thing. Whatever company you're starting, whether it's a medical device, you're not a medical device company, SaaS, you're not a SaaS company, a media company, you're not a media company, you first and foremost have to realize as a founder, your number one thing is sales and marketing. You are first and prominently a sales and marketing company. So the founder's responsibility is, yes, to tell their story, to build up that team, but it is to get out there and meet with the customers, to be or potential customers, and do that sales validation, because nobody can do that heavy lifting for you. And if you can't get that going, you should not be starting a company.
Yeah, the marketing idea, because I agree with you. Sales and marketing, look, if you don't have them, just forget it.
Yeah,
I don't care. It's the greatest idea in the world. It's not going to work. But what you're talking about, this authentic message, this is where I think marketing can get screwed up, because we get into the lab and it's like we crafted some message, but we've lost the entire reason why I started to begin with. And I had asked you off air, hey man, how'd you get into this? And
sure.
your authentic message resonated with me immediately. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, because I saw myself as well, I could see. So I don't want to take away from your story, but if you might indulge the audience, what was your why that
Sure.
now has created Gusher?
And I say this before I say the story. As a founder, you need to think like this, all right? What I'm about to tell you. Because when you give the true, authentic story, I mean, the real stuff as to why you're doing what you're doing, it does resonate. And it doesn't have to be about the product, it doesn't have to be about the details extremely of what you're doing, but the authentic story is important. So, why did I start? So, I literally saw my mom working a low level government secretarial job at Wright Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, Fairborn, Ohio. And she always had these brilliant business ideas, but she could never get them off the ground. There was no such thing as a venture capital ecosystem in Ohio, still isn't. She was a female in the 80s, so good luck on getting money right there. That went ahead and nixed her. But she really held in there for a very long time. And I saw that, she had this potential in her head that she could just never get out there in reality. She did finally make it well into her 50s, but that had an impact upon me, and it really stuck with me. And so I just feel that, when you look across the globe, there's 700 million people across the globe trying to figure out how to start a business that don't have a penny to their name. And so I thought, okay, well, I think we can help those people. That is a big impact, and that's what I'd like to do.
See, and this is the point of the story where I love, because everyone can see their mom, right? They can see, and at some point, I think every human being on planet Earth has said, I have an idea. Now, it may go away, right? Because you're in the shower, you woke up from a dream, and capturing the idea so often it just goes away. What would you tell people that are sitting there and they're like, because they had that idea, they literally thought of Uber before Uber happened. And I'm not saying somebody did, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing somebody did. Somebody had this idea, this crazy idea, but they didn't write it down. They didn't share it. They didn't pursue it in any way, shape, or form. And so now they have to watch these other people that
Yep.
have launched it. What would you say to somebody that's sitting there and they have these ideas? What would you tell them to really start with? Because I had it last night. Literally, I woke up from a
Yep.
dream and I was like, "Oh shit, that's kind of crazy, but it may be worth a darn." What would you say to people that are sitting there?
I'd say, first of all, don't sit there. I'd say get up, go to the mirror in the bathroom or wherever the heck it is. Look at yourself as you start thinking about that idea. And one of the things that we've seen is when people really are into an idea and are going to make it happen, one of two things happens when they're looking in that mirror and they're thinking about that idea. Either it's something that they're smiling about and they want to go ahead and bring that thing to life, or it's something that's so painful that they have to figure a way to go ahead and cure it or make a better solution. And so if you're sitting there and you're in front of that mirror and you're experiencing that, if you're thinking about it when you go to sleep, if you're thinking about it when you wake up, if you're thinking about it when you're on the crapper, that's something that's that little voice inside your head that's fighting to get out. But I just don't think it's a little voice. I think that literally fundamentally is your soul. That's why you are put here on this earth, is to get those ideas out. Maybe it fails, maybe it doesn't succeed, but maybe it does. Maybe it's something that you can actually put in action what your thoughts are and make that thing happen. And I think it's a big deal in taking action.
Yeah, well, and having somebody like you that says, "Look, your dreams may be a reality." Now we're going to vet you, right? I'm sure you have a vetting process that you go through, and you clearly are like, do you have what it takes? Do you have the passion? Do you have the why? Does it solve the problem? And I'm guessing these are some of the questions. Um, but often this is where people, the self-limiting beliefs, they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. And it just stops dead in its tracks right there.
Well,
That's the taking action piece. I think that's what your first thing is, like, get off your ass and go start
yep.
to really see if it could be something. I don't know if there's a question in there as much as I just want people to act. I want people to know that there is potential resources out there for them.
Well, I think it comes down to this. It's literally taking a step. It's not taking all these steps. One of the things that I do when I'm in quicksand, and that's really what it typically is, where a person's locked in their mind or locked in a pattern. When you're in quicksand, is to take any action. Almost in a way, taking any action then turns into more action, which turns into more action, which then ends up getting you out of quicksand. So if a person is there frozen in that loop of they've got this idea, but they don't know what to do, and hey, they're not qualified, and they start going through that imposter syndrome bullshit, and hey, they don't know all this stuff, but they do see the market or they see a way to do this. They don't realize that that's all you need to have. You don't need to even have the solution. You need to have just the problem. That's the point of bringing in people into your company that are great at what they do. They're there to help you solve that. They're there to help you create something better. And that just comes down to taking one damn step. That's it. Just going ahead and taking that one step, because always it ends up having where other steps end up coming as a result of that. But you don't need to
Yeah.
take more than one step.
No, I love that. And you actually finished the thought, which is exactly right. It's not having from A to Z. You don't have that all, right? And the imposter syndrome, I'm so glad you brought this up, because everyone, in my opinion, has felt it at some point where you're like, nope, I have no freaking clue what I'm doing. I'll put my hand up. Most days I'm like, no idea. But the ability to act and not have perfection, because perfection is the enemy of greatness, especially when it comes to launching a business. Uh, again, you bring something up and I just want to talk about it. I'm trying to formulate the perfect question, but the truth is, I just love that you're saying these things because I want people to hear it, man. Don't think it has to be perfect in order to pursue your dream.
If anything, you said it on hit the nail on the head. I mean, perfection is the killer of everything. It's the killer of dreams. It's the killer of businesses. It's a killer of motivation, of forward progress. The starting is the important. The momentum is way more important than perfection. You know, getting people on board, talking with them, putting your idea out there. You know, being scared of what you're doing is a good thing. That's fuel. Use it. You know, but go ahead and do what makes you feel uncomfortable. That's the path to growth. You know, perfection, I don't shoot for perfection. I shoot for momentum and forward progress. That's all we do. Forward progress all day. That's what we fight for.
So currently you have 24, you founded 24 companies.
Yep.
How many, Chris, do you know over your lifetime how many you have created and started and stopped? I'm just curious because,
Yeah.
we're talking about a lot of the successes. I have to imagine there's been a couple of failures along the way, or maybe not failures, learning experiences, is what we'll call them. How many, do you know the number of how many you've actually started at from age 6 to your age today?
I'm not counting the stuff in my childhood, but I literally I stopped counting at 24. All right. I felt it was a better number than 25, so I stopped counting at 24. We have literally 350 plus companies on our platform. So that we're involved with, that our portfolio companies, that we hold their hands and everything in terms of almost in a way day-to-day interactions and helping get them going where they need to go. So I mean, it depends on your definition. Within the next 10 months, we'll have 10, 12 months, we'll have around 3,500 because we're growing so rapidly. Yeah. So it's a lot of companies. And that's why I'm saying that really. And I don't joke about this. Anybody can do it. We have everything from 20-year-old college kids up to 80-year-old grandmas in South Africa that have launched successful companies. So it's nothing special. All ethnicities, age groups, income levels, geographic location. It makes no difference. But we have seen a couple things in common, though. You want me to go into that a little bit?
Please,
So,
yes.
so we've seen two things that make a successful founder, and I think you'll laugh at them. Number one is that they have an extreme sense of honesty. I mean, it's not just honesty is the best policy. It's that literally they don't fake it till they make it. If they don't know something, they don't pretend that they know something. If they need help, they reach out and they ask for help. Something pretty simple, okay? But the second one, I did not believe. I had called up every founder to verify this because it was somebody's theory. And sure enough, it had a 95, 96% correlation. And will go back to a lot of things, which I think you'll tie into. That extreme sports of some kind was in their background. So
Mm.
maybe they ran a marathon, maybe they were Division I soccer, maybe they were on the Olympic cycling team, kung fu, MMA, climbing a mountain and leaving half their toes up on the mountain when they got frostbite. I'm talking like 95, 96% correlation with extreme sports of some type.
Wow. I mean, that's actually not surprising. And the reason I say that is because they've got their ass kicked
Right.
over and over and over again. And that's the part of entrepreneurship. Like I told you, my youngest son, since he was very young child, I knew his career path. Whether he chooses college, whether he doesn't, I really don't care because I know where he's going to go, which is
Yeah.
he's going to create this business because he does not fear losing. He doesn't fear failing. He doesn't fear the fact that he doesn't know what he's doing, and yet he creates this. And you talked about momentum and scalability you have not mentioned, but good
Yep.
Lord, you just talked about going from wherever Gusher started, you stopped counting at 24, 350. You're
Yeah.
talking 10x now, 3,500. Okay, I'm in, man. Like that is massive scalability,
Yeah.
brother. Tell me the trajectory. How'd that
Sure.
happen?
Well, this is what I always tell people regarding scalability, and I'm going to curse again. All right. So you literally have to do the stuff that's not scalable in the beginning stages because that leads to the scalable stuff. So I call it doing the shit. So you have to do the shit. So if you're sitting there and you're making one phone call, then another phone call, then another phone call, that's not scalable. All right. Even if you use automated bots and everything else, it's not scalable. but it leads to the scalable stuff. You have to go out there and, I don't know, deal with one retailer or make one sale or whatever it may be over and over. That doesn't go ahead and allows you to scale, but it teaches you, it creates the path for scalability. When you're recruiting and you're talking to somebody and bringing on them on your team, that's not scalable, but learning that pitch becomes something that's able to be scaled upon. So in the beginning stages, that first year, that first couple of years, you are there doing the not scalable shit because that leads to the scalable shit.
And this is where I see most successful leaders, what I consider to be the most successful leaders. You have a topic here, leading by example, and you're just talking about, you use phone call, but let's just say you're wearing every hat in that solopreneur, entrepreneur right out of the gate. Taking out the trash, at some point you did that. What I see is, regardless of size, that leader is still willing to go pick up that garbage and take it out. It doesn't matter how many zeros are in his bank account. It doesn't matter what the title is for her. It matters that they're willing to still do the shit today, right? Versus the ones I've seen fail. Lee Iocoko would be probably my best example, where the ego got so big. These were now his minions. And of course there's a fall, because now it was no longer about the team. It was all about my ego feeding that. Now I'm above taking the trash out, and it's all horse shit, man. The truth is, why you're not any different or better just because you scaled. It just, you have an opportunity to create more opportunities for others. What would you say to that, brother? Am I speaking completely out of my ass, or have you seen some truth to that?
I think it's 100% truth, but yeah, and there's two sides of that. So I fundamentally believe in absolutely leading by example. And the only way you can really lead is by example. So whatever you're unwilling to do, how the hell can you expect someone else to do? And so by you doing it, by you pressing, by you working those long hours, by you working Saturdays and Sundays and the holidays and late at night, people see that. The people that are involved with you see that, and it tends to catch on. It has a certain aura effect. I deal with a distributed team across the globe, so we have it literally, I mean, talking from everything from Australia to Asia to Europe to the US, Central America, South America. We are everywhere, and people are stunned that, hey, I'm on at 2 a.m. or I'm on at 4 a.m. and we're interacting with it just because that's the way I'm wired. That's the way I do it. But the willingness to go ahead and I'm not going to say that, I want to say this the right way. The willingness to put, almost in a way, the kindness, the expectations of the people, the importance of what they're doing side by side with what you're doing, that requires a certain thing as a leader, which you need to know. And the only way you can understand that is by experiencing what they've done. I've never written a line of code, yet we have a ton of people that code, but I do know that what it takes to ideate and talk and create. So I talk with them. I interact every damn day with them to know what's going on at a granular level. At the same time, you have to delegate. So anything that can be processed, anything that you're repeating over and over and over, should be turned into a process and delegated, because that's what allows you to scale also. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, and the delegate, empower. So you delegate this off, but it sounds like you're still checking in to be like, hey, how's things going? Not to micromanage, but to make sure, do you have everything that you need? Do you need any additional support? What does your process look like for that?
I mean, it's really just talking. We do a lot of video. I mean, nonstop video all day because we are distributed. We do get together as often as we can, but it's really fundamentally, in my 20s, I viewed people as a commodity. I viewed them as something to be used, and I ripped through them, and I built companies left and right, and didn't have any regards for them. As I've gotten older, I've realized, hey, that was a fundamental mistake as to what I did, and I've taken a very deep step towards my people, because my greatest assets, turn off their computers or go to sleep every night. It's not the actual assets of the company in terms of things that we own. It really is the people, because they do make it happen, and they make it happen. They push because I ask them to push, because they're wired that way, and they know we're on the same mission to make it happen.
Yeah, I was very similar in my 20s, where it's not that I didn't value people, but I didn't value the way I do today, which is truly your most valuable asset. I'm curious to hear what you think with AI. Clearly, it's shifted. I don't even know where this is going to go. I mean, it's so fast and furious, but at the same time, if you're not utilizing it, I think you're going to be a dinosaur. How are you really using AI to help with growing the company, support so much of the growth that you're obtaining?
Sure. I mean, there's good and bad of AI. I mean, when it comes to creating stuff like content or anything like that in a finished form, I think AI is horrible because we can always pick it out a mile away. Maybe a lower generation or newer generation or whatever it may be can't. But we have it where we interview people almost in a way nonstop, and we can tell what's AI generated and what's not. At the same time, there's stuff where it's absolutely phenomenal. In the medical space, it's phenomenal. In the creation, just to create and ideate, it may be good. For example, if I was going ahead and creating a piece of content, it may be great to use something like Chat GPT to come up with ideas or something like that. There are great systems that will go ahead and automate and tie into to reduce or shorten process flow. So stuff that we do, I don't like to turn out garbage. So we don't just put out garbage to be there. It has to have a certain voice, a certain je ne sais quoi to be able to be listed on Gusher as to what we do. But there is definitely time savings and creation savings. My son and I last night said, hey, why don't we try to write a rap song and stuck in some things about him and me. And sure enough, we had a rap song about the carnivore CEO and my son who was into whatever. And it was a damn good rap. And I'm like, okay, well, that was just fun, but using that to go ahead and create a commercially viable song, I don't know. Maybe something's there, maybe something's not. I think that there's a lot of AI companies on Gusher. We're invested in a lot of AI companies, but I think that it's going to end up being a balloon with a lot of it that at some point will burst, but in the good stuff will go ahead and stick. I think it's a good tool overall.
Yeah, that's the part that to calm fears. I'm like, look, yes, it saves a ton of time, but that human element still needs to be there to really continue to mold and create to really make it back to that authentic story. Otherwise, it's just garbage. I want to ask you, brother, because all these companies, I have to imagine you almost look at them like your kids. Like these companies that you have this love in each one of them to a certain degree. Is there one that sticks out in your mind where you're just like, dude, this thing is just I love it. I'm so blessed and grateful to be a part of it.
Okay, so you're the father of children. What would I say if you had a favorite child? See, you know
I
where
would
I'm
say
going.
shame on you.
Right, because you're going to say I love them equally but differently. And it's the truth. I really do. So, I remember our first deal. Our first deal onto our platform was a company called Baru, which is exploding. They really are creating this taking excess capacity of furniture manufacturing and doing it worldwide to make custom furniture. Really neat deal. But there's tons of companies. So, I tend to think of the companies that don't work. Those are the ones that stick with me. Like, what could we have done better? The great companies, they're great. And yeah, you enjoy it. But the other ones that I go home thinking about and that bug me are like, why did this one not work? Why couldn't they get a team? What was it that was missing about it? Was it something we did? So that's the stuff that really sticks with me. I stick with more the negative side of it.
No, I mean, look, that's why you're great at what you do. It's Bill Belichick, right? It's like
Yeah.
we'll celebrate the successes, but I'm really focused on how could we be better. And I think that's really having that self-actualization and awareness to say we can get better. That's why Gusher's clearly growing. Brother, I can't believe how fast it's flying by. What didn't I know enough to ask you? Where you're like, James, I have to give this to your audience before we wrap this up.
I think it's something really simple. I think there's one thing when it comes to entrepreneurship and business success that takes precedence above everything. And it's the most important thing. You can be absolutely poor. You can be in the worst geographic location there is. You can have the odds stacked against you. And I've seen it firsthand. I've experienced it personally. You can have a horrible family. You can have a horrible scenario, horrible everything. Okay. But it comes down to one thing when it comes to entrepreneurship and success. You never give up. You just never, never, never give up. Never give up. And I mean, that's a big statement to say. And yes, it's an old statement and everything else, but it really, truly is everything. Because what happens if you never give up and you go ahead and plant your feet down and you say, I'm not moving, it turns you into something else. It turns you into a different type of person that enables you to go ahead and find that success you're looking for.
No, it's brilliant. I mean, look, anybody that's ever asked, how did you get quote unquote successful? That's my answer. I don't know how to quit. I
Yeah.
literally don't know what it means to quit. So, Chris, you're phenomenal, brother. I love what your company does. I think it's so unique, and so many people have an opportunity to create something that they never thought possible because of your company. If somebody listening is like, dude, I have this idea, I want to do this, where's the best place for them to reach you?
One place. You just want to go to gusher.co, gusher.co.
Awesome. Brother, keep building. I mean, 350 to 3,500, you
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
worldwide. It's not just in the States. He's talking all continents. It's remarkable. Chris, thank you for coming on and sharing, man. It really is inspiring because again, there's so many graveyards filled with amazing ideas.
Mm.
I don't want that anymore. Fine, put the bodies there, but the ideas need to come to fruition. So thank you for what you're doing, man.
Thanks for having me.
You guys, I know you have ideas. It happens, like you said, whether it's on the crapper, in the shower, walking the dog, these ideas come up. Write them down and consider reaching out to someone like Gusher to say, hey, I have an idea, but I don't know what to do next. This is a real tool, and it didn't always exist. And I want people to pursue their dreams. That's what Let's Go Win is all about. So please reach out to Gusher. Share this with somebody. Everyone you know has an idea, whether they chose to pursue it or not. Chris literally told you, you have the ability. You are not an imposter. You are able to do these things. Share this out with somebody. And until next time, you guys, remember your mindset matters. I appreciate y'all. We'll talk to you soon.